stop. If you are over 60 and you do this every single morning, you may be quietly putting your heart, your brain, and your balance under serious stress. And no one has clearly warned you about it. What I'm about to share today might change the way you start your day forever. In fact, for some of you, this information could prevent a fall, a stroke, or even a heart emergency. That may sound dramatic, but after more than 2 decades caring for seniors, I no longer ignore small habits that create big consequences. The truth is, this habit feels harmless, responsible even. Many people believe it shows discipline, productivity, strength. But in aging blood vessels, what feels strong can sometimes be dangerous. I have watched healthy, careful, compliant seniors, people who take their medications on time, eat balanced meals, go for daily walks, and attend every checkup, suddenly experience dizziness, collapse, or frightening symptoms that seem to come out of nowhere. And often, it starts in the first few minutes after waking up. My name is Dr. Michael Carter. For over 36 years, I have worked closely with Americans between the ages of 60 and 80. I have treated heart attacks that happened without warning. I have treated strokes in patients whose numbers looked stable just days before. I have seen minor morning dizziness turn into major injuries that changed someone's independence overnight. And I can tell you this with complete honesty. Most of those patients were not careless. They were not ignoring their health. They were doing what they believed was right. That is why this matters so much. There is a hidden stress that affects aging bodies differently than younger ones. It does not show up on a routine lab test. It does not come with a loud symptom at first. And it happens quietly, often before you even brush your teeth. By the time most people recognize it, the damage has already been done. If you are someone who values your independence, if you want to keep driving, walking confidently, living in your own home, then the next few minutes are important. Because the danger isn't what most people think, and it's probably something you did this morning. Let me tell you about Linda. She is 74 years old and fiercely independent. She lives alone, cooks her own meals, manages her medications carefully, and walks her neighborhood 3 times a week. Her children proudly say, "Mom is doing great." And on paper she was. Her blood pressure was controlled. Her cholesterol numbers were steady. Her blood sugar was acceptable for her age. But over a few months, something started happening in the mornings. She would wake up feeling completely fine. No pain, no warning. But the moment her feet touched the floor, she felt a sudden wave of dizziness. Not spinning, just a strange, lightheaded feeling, like her body hadn't caught up with her. Her knees felt weak. Her head felt heavy. She ignored it at first. "It's just age," she told herself. Then one morning, walking toward the kitchen, her vision dimmed for a brief second. Just long enough to frighten her. She grabbed the counter and stood still until it passed. That moment scared her, not because it hurt, but because she lives alone. And if you're over 60, you understand that fear. It's not the dizziness itself that worries you. It's the possibility of falling. It's the thought of being on the floor with no one there. It's the fear of losing independence overnight. Linda came to see me after what she called a close call. She had stood up quickly from bed, taken a few steps, and suddenly felt like the room dropped beneath her. She didn't fall, but she nearly did. Her heart tests were normal. Her lab work was stable. Her medications hadn't changed. She looked at me and said, "Doctor, I'm doing everything right. Why is this happening?" I've heard that question hundreds of times. Seniors who follow every rule, who eat carefully, who take their pills, who stay active. And yet, something still feels off. Here's the surprising part. Linda's problem had nothing to do with her diet. It wasn't her cholesterol. It wasn't sudden disease. It was something she had done every single morning for decades without thinking about it. Something that feels harmless. Something that feels responsible. And when we changed that one habit, without adding any new medication, Her morning dizziness disappeared within weeks. But before I tell you exactly what that habit was, you need to understand what happens inside your body after 60. Because the real danger isn't just the behavior itself, it's how aging blood vessels respond to it. And that is the part almost no one explains clearly. To understand what was happening to Linda, you need to understand what changes inside your body after age 60. And I'm going to explain this in simple terms, because this is not complicated. It's just rarely explained clearly. When you're younger, your blood vessels are flexible. They adjust quickly. When you stand up, tiny sensors in your arteries detect the shift in gravity. Your nervous system responds in seconds. Your heart pumps a little stronger. Your vessels tighten just enough to keep blood flowing to your brain. You barely notice the adjustment. But after 60, several things change. Your blood vessels become stiffer. Not diseased necessarily, just less elastic. Your nervous system reacts more slowly. The reflex that once took 1 second may now take 3 or 4. And that short delay matters more than you think. During the night, while you sleep, your body naturally becomes slightly dehydrated. You haven't had fluids for 6 to 8 hours. Your blood becomes a little thicker. Your blood pressure shifts. Hormones like cortisol rise in the early morning hours, which can temporarily increase heart strain. This means that the first few minutes after waking are actually one of the most vulnerable times of the entire day for seniors. Most heart attacks and strokes statistically occur in the morning hours. That's not random. Your body is transitioning from rest to activity. It's adjusting from lying flat to being upright. Gravity suddenly pulls blood downward toward your legs. In a younger body, that shift is smooth. In an aging body, that shift can feel like a shock. If the blood pressure drops too quickly, your brain doesn't receive enough blood for a few seconds. That's when you feel lightheaded. If the pressure overcorrects and spikes, your heart and arteries absorb that strain. If you're on blood pressure medication or diuretics, the effect can be stronger. And here's the part that most people never think about. The faster you move during that transition, the harder your cardiovascular system has to scramble to keep up. It's like slamming the gas pedal in a car before the engine is fully warmed. You might not notice it once, or twice, but over months and years, that repeated internal shock adds stress. And for some seniors, that stress shows up as dizziness. For others, it shows up as falls. For a few, it shows up as something much more serious. There is one very common morning behavior that creates this sudden cardiovascular shock in aging arteries. It feels normal. It feels efficient. Most people think it shows strength. But inside the body, it can create instability in seconds. And this is exactly what was happening to Linda. In the next section, I'm going to tell you clearly what that habit is, and why stopping it immediately can protect your brain, your heart, and your independence. The habit doctors are quietly warning seniors about is this: standing up too fast the moment you wake up and immediately starting to move. It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But this single action, swinging your legs out of bed and rising to your feet within seconds, can create a sudden drop or spike in blood pressure that aging blood vessels struggle to handle. When you lie down all night, your body is in a horizontal position, and blood is evenly distributed. The moment you stand, gravity pulls blood down into your legs and lower body. In younger adults, the nervous system reacts instantly, tightening vessels and increasing heart output so the brain continues receiving steady blood flow. But after 60, that reflex slows. The vessels are stiffer. The response is delayed. For a few critical seconds, your brain may not receive enough blood. That's when you feel lightheaded, unsteady, or briefly foggy. Some people describe it as seeing stars. Others feel sudden weakness in their knees. In more serious cases, this rapid shift can trigger what's called orthostatic hypotension, a sharp drop in blood pressure upon standing, which increases the risk of falls. and falls are not minor events in seniors. They are one of the leading causes of injury, hospitalization, and loss of independence in Americans over 65. But there's another layer that most people never hear about. When your blood pressure drops suddenly, your heart may respond by beating faster and harder to compensate. If your pressure spikes instead, stiff arteries absorb that force. If you are on blood pressure medication, diuretics, or certain heart medications, your system may already be more sensitive to fluid shifts in the morning. That means the simple act of jumping out of bed can place extra strain on your cardiovascular system before your body has fully adjusted from sleep. This doesn't mean you should be afraid to get up. It means you should respect the transition. The danger is not waking up. The danger is rushing the process. And what makes this so important is that most seniors believe moving quickly shows strength and discipline. In reality, patience protects power. Linda's dizziness wasn't random. It wasn't mysterious. It was her body struggling to stabilize during those first few seconds each morning. Once she changed how she stood up, without adding medication, without changing her diet, her symptoms faded. But knowing the problem is only half the solution. In the next part, I'm going to show you exactly how to protect your mornings in less than 2 minutes a day, and why this simple adjustment can dramatically reduce your risk of falls and morning cardiovascular stress. Here is what I now teach every patient over 60, and it takes less than 2 minutes, but can protect you for years. When you wake up, do not jump out of bed. First, open your eyes and stay lying down for a few seconds. Take 3 slow, deep breaths. Let your nervous system wake up with you. Then, gently roll to your side and push yourself into a seated position instead of snapping upright. Sit at the edge of your bed with both feet flat on the floor and your hands resting beside you. Stay there for at least 60 to 90 seconds. During that time, flex your ankles up and down, tighten and release your calf muscles, and gently open and close your fists. These small movements help pump blood back toward your heart and signal your vessels to adjust. If you keep a small glass of room temperature water by your bed, take a few sips before standing. Overnight dehydration makes blood pressure shifts stronger, especially if you take diuretics or blood pressure medication. After those 60 to 90 seconds, stand slowly while holding on to something stable, the bed frame, a nightstand, or a walker if you use one. Pause again once you're upright. Let your body stabilize before you start walking. This simple 2-minute reset allows your arteries, your heart, and your brain to transition safely from sleep to standing. It reduces sudden drops in blood pressure. It lowers the chance of dizziness, and most importantly, it protects your independence. Because here is the reality. Many serious falls happen in the morning, and many cardiovascular events occur in the early waking hours. Not because seniors are weak, but because the body is most vulnerable during transition. The good news is this risk is often preventable. You do not need a new prescription. You do not need a strict diet. You need patience for 90 seconds. Slow is not weakness. Slow is strategy. If you are caring for someone over 60, share this with them today. And if this message helped you see your mornings differently, type "steady" in the comments, so I know you're choosing stability over speed. A calm start each day may mean many more healthy mornings ahead.